Okay, we are all set, so we can get started.
Yeah, let's start it. Let me share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah, we have two agenda items today. I think the first one is the most important one. So let's get started. And if we have time later, we can walk through other documents. Okay. So let's jump into the first item. I'm now opening the proposal from today. Okay. Yeah, Cody, do you want to drive this discussion?
So we had a discussion with Samir on Thursday, and I just captured that in the notes. The only thing that we did not discuss in details was the naming. But what we agreed is that we should have kind of acknowledgement of the names that we've used in the past and what will be the names and the terminology that we would like to use in the future. So that's kind of the additional thing. But we've received a lot of feedback that actually what we have as naming and terminology as well as repository under the Notary project organization is confusing to teams, to people. And we are asked actually to clean up that terminology as well as the naming. And I think Samir also brought that as kind of a gate for our release. So we are clear on the branding going forward. So the proposal kind of describes what we discussed with Samir on Thursday's Notary project meeting, and also my proposal for the terminology and how to use the terminology, like what is Notary project, what is Notary, the avoidance of the use of Notary V2 because there is no corresponding entity inside under the Notary project organization. And so I believe kind of the proposal is really to get votes on that by the maintainers. And we can write a separate kind of either I can update the PR that I have under for the README on the GitHub repository with this terminology, and we can write it a little bit better than what I wrote in the issue. So it's more clear, and just approve the PRs. The other items that we need to fix is in every repository, we would like to actually have the README updated to correspond to what is the repository purpose, and instead actually repeating all this information again and again in every repository just to link to the .github README file, which has kind of the overall description of the Notary project. The other big thing was like kind of archiving the Notary project repository, which is also a point of confusion. That will not be something that actually we can do immediately, but at least creating a process for that and starting this process for this repository as well as any other repositories that we would like to archive. Make a note that I'm talking about archiving, not deleting those repositories. So everything that remains in the repository will stay in the repository and it will be publicly visible. It will just be archived, and it will be made clear to the users of this repository that this will not actually be developed any further, or no work will be done in that repository any further. They are not losing kind of access to whatever it is in the repository. I don't think that's kind of clear on my kind of description of the archival repository. And Samir, I saw your comment. I am not sure whether that kind of answers your question. You had a comment on the process for archiving, how we're gonna notify the users.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about, is there an automatic way that anybody who's watching that repo or has forked that repo will get an update in their feed?
I am unfortunately not aware of such a way, unless putting a banner, this is archived, and when they come, they can see it on the README. But
Okay.
I cannot claim that I have full knowledge of GitHub system. So if anybody knows a way to do, yeah, everybody is welcome to share experience and suggestions.
I don't have a existing previous experience on it, but I think maybe once we archive this certain repository, we can also show a note in our website, and we also broadcast it in the Slack channel and also our Twitter account, so that people are aware of that. This could be one way to do that.
Yeah, I think we will just need a positive message if we put it on Twitter saying, hey, we made some changes for making it simple and easier to understand, and without, yeah, that's fine. I think that will work.
Another question from my side. So for archiving certain repository, it's purely responsibility of the organization, right? I mean, currently we are under the Notary project organization, so there's no need for CNCF any governance from their side.
Not that I am aware of. So this is up to the organization what to do with the repository. So this needs, though, I believe, the majority vote or super majority vote of the maintainers. We need to take a look at the governance. I believe we need super majority vote for the maintainers for new repository. And archiving, I guess, repository. Maybe the bigger question here that I have specifically is that coming back to the maintainers supermajority vote, if we look at the maintainers for the organization, so we need folks like Nias, Milind, Steve, and Justin Cormack to also express their opinion on this issue, as well as the archival process and archiving the repository itself.
Yeah, let's go ahead and tag them. But
They
I
are
thought
tagged.
they're
Yeah.
tagged. Okay.
Yeah, they all are tagged.
Okay, let's try to get them to respond to this.
So what we are going to do is first, we need to, sorry, Sajid, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, there are two PRs here. One, I think the one that Tori has, and then one that you have. This is good progress. Could we merge and iterate? Because I think at least removing a lot of these references is a good first step. Or what's blocking, or are we waiting for like a complete, a very clean PR before we start merging things? Just to kind of like make sure that we start iterating on these merges at least.
I can eventually say what kind of my expectation is, and I'm looking forward for feedback. But for the folks who are regularly on the calls, it will be good to have at least looks good to me or express some opinion on that issue. Once we have kind of agreement on this particular issue that, yeah, everybody kind of agrees with that is the approach that we want to take, I can go and update my PR in the .github repository to include the terminology, which we will stick. Then we need to kind of wait on the maintainers to really approve that PR. In parallel, we can go and create PRs for the other repositories. And also we need to create an issue to create actually the new specification repository. In all the cases though, so we can make progress on the individual repositories and their individual readmes, because I believe each individual repository has a separate set of maintainers that can vote on that and get the PRs merged. So it will be possible to make progress on those. The only kind of two that will be stuck will be on the GitHub repository. Will need the organizational maintainers to vote to update the PR and get it merged, and retiring the Notary project repository and creating a new specification repository. We will need the organizational maintainers to weigh in. So those are kind of the two things that maybe we will not be able to make a progress without the organizational maintainers. Now, the one point will be, let's say, if the organizational maintainers do not agree with the terminology, we may need to go and revise some of the readmes in the individual repositories, but I think that should be easy. As Sajay, you said, we can iterate on that.
Okay, the GitHub pull number 32, the one you have, has some feedback from Samir. I think if that is approved, then maybe Samir, you can reach out to Niaz and take, or is there any more changes that we need to do before we can get approvals?
On the 32, we need to add the if you scroll up we need to actually scroll down. No, do not open the PR. The part that is missing from 32 is all the like, what is notary project, what is notation. It will be good to add all these things in 32 before we get the approvals.
I think, yeah, my thinking is that this one can sit and boil and cook for a long time, right? So maybe we can just create new issues and make progress. I mean, OCI went through the same point where none of the PRs got merged because everybody was waiting for perfect. But if we wanted to check this in, and then you said there are 3 definitions missing, right? Do you want to track it as just another small issue and add an addendum to this one? I mean, again, this is your choice. So just want to see what is the best way progress, where we can make some progress here.
I can do either one. So I'm looking for active feedback, whether it's from maintainers or people on the call who can actually weigh in on this feedback. So far I've seen feedback only from Emily, some from me and Samir, which kind of I fixed a lot of the things that Emily provided as a feedback. Additional feedback that she gave is really about the terminology for notary project, notary notation, and so on. And everything else can be actually, so I need to address Samir's feedback, but if we get approval, we can go and merge the PR. So it's up to us as a community. That's what I'm saying. It's
yeah, thanks, Toddy. I think for my question is, once we merge this PR and we have a follow-up PRs to, for example, acknowledge some terminologies, in that PR also required to require the super majority, because I think it's hard to get super majority from organization maintainers. So if we do need a super majority, maybe we can just use this PR for that. Otherwise, there will be several PRs.
I need to check what we have in the governance, right? But having in mind that those are important topics, I think that like maintainers need to weigh into that. Whether we need supermajority or not for the terminology, I cannot say right now. I have not looked. My gut feeling is we need like supermajority, at least to have every maintainer on the same page, or majority at the minimum. We cannot like approve the PR with the usual 3 people who are approving the PR, because that is important for the project.
Yeah, it makes sense.
That is my feeling. So just everybody else on the call can weigh in. And another option would be, if we cannot get kind of like, we can go and document, let's say if we run a vote now, we have how many, 11 people on the call that are regular actually on the call, and we say all these people voted yes for this proposal. At least we need to document it in the issue. It's better if each one on the call, or everybody who actually has opinion, goes and comments, because that is what CNCF expects from us, right? It's like, I think CNCF will not be happy if we have the usual three people approval, but if we have everyone on the call weigh in on the issue and say, yeah, it's good to, looks good to me, or no, I would like to do that change. This is what CNCF expects from the community.
Yeah, so let's do it the 2 parts. I think going to maintainers to review that PR number 32 multiple times will not be the best approach. Let's get an LGTM from all the maintainers on the issue number 35. I can work with Milind and Nias to get it. Sorry, if you can divide and conquer, and you can get from the other maintainers. Once we have the LGTM on this concept, then let's revise the PR number 32 with the changes, and then get a one-time approval, at least for .github change. Once that is done, everything else we can do with 3 people or 4 people in each of the respective repos.
Yeah, may I ask, so is Ian Feynman, is somebody taking notes today to actually document what Samir just said as a process, and eventually follow that one? Because this is one important thing that we need to document in the notes. I am okay with what Samir is proposing. We just need to document what that proposal is, and as part of the meeting notes.
Yeah,
we can take those.
Okay. Let me do that. Is Feynman writing it? Okay.
As you are sharing your screen, I think I can take it.
Okay, great. Okay, so I also agree with Samuel's proposal. The first thing is that we ask maintainers to respond to the issue 35, which is a proposal to bring clarity to the Notary project branding. And we also then later, once we have the I think it's supermajority approval on this issue 35, then for the GitHub PR number 32, Toddy can update it accordingly, then request a reviewer from the maintainers. So for that PR, we also need a supermajority from the maintainers. And once we reach that, we merge that PR. The next step is that we create several PRs in each repository to update the README, and also I think removes the and correct the naming accordingly, according to the GitHub PR number 32. So basically 3 steps. We also need to create an issues to about how to archive Notary projects, and also create a new project, a new subproject, as Toddy mentioned in this number 35 issues. So basically, is we
believe-
are yeah.
Sorry, I believe we also need to update the overall governance document that there is a process for archiving repository and what this process is. That should be a PR either on the governance document or creating a new kind of document describing what is the archival process.
Okay. So basically 2 parts. The first part including 3 steps to fixing the naming issue, including the GitHub 35 issue and the PR 32, and also follow up PRs in each repository. Another part is to first update or check the current process of how to archive the sub-project and amend the governance guide if needed. Then after that, we can create an issue to vote for archive Notary project and create a new repository, for example, specification. So basically 2 parts, right? Sajid, please.
Hey, I have a question regarding 32. So what is the current state? Has all the feedback from Emily been addressed and Samir's feedback been addressed already, or is that still pending?
There is some feedback that is not addressed, which relates to the terminology and the names that we use. So that was feedback that needs to be addressed in 32.
Okay, so I'm guessing, would you have time this week to kind of like rev this, and then we can see before next week if we can get all the approvals?
I can rev it tomorrow morning. So
awesome. Okay,
that's
there's one feedback that is kind of like raised my I was a little bit where Emily says that the specification should not be, I mean the terminology should not be broad enough for supply chain security. Are we scoping Notary project down just for signing at this point?
Yeah, that's actually a good point, because I think I updated the PR with some of her suggestions. So if you go to the PR,
yeah, that's the one.
It's a good question. It's question for the whole community, right? It's a good point. I don't think that we should scope it to signing only, but I am kind of.
I think you can draw precedence from how the WG artifact group charter was discussed, right? Like you want to keep the charter broader than the individual project implementations, so that for every additional piece of work that the team does, we do not want to have to rev the whole charter definition going forward.
You're welcome to make a comment on the PR.
Okay.
Sajay.
Okay.
Yeah, please do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Toddy did some updates on this one. Okay. So I have one question about archive Notary project and create new repository. For this part, do we need to do it before our V1 release, or we can do it in parallel?
About archival?
Yeah, archive the Notary projects.
Yeah, I think we discussed this with Samir on Thursday. Our preference will be to actually archive the Notary project and create the specifications one before the release, because then we are releasing with a cleaner brand than if we keep it. So we may actually like maybe the process should be, we create the specifications, create the necessary folder structure. Currently, even under Notary project, the folder structure for the specification is a little bit messed up and not clean. So we can create those things. We can put a banner on the Notary project that it will be archived based on the process, whatever process we agree, and then we do the release. We don't need to archive it, but I think we need to have the new repository with the specifications before that.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
I think we are close. I think we will get, let's try to get the LGTM on issue number 35 by end of business tomorrow. Let's pick who we can. So we are not too far from merging PR number 32. If Tori, you get your changes in to PR number 32 based on what you proposed in issue number 35 by tomorrow, and by tomorrow, if we get the 3 org maintainers, Nia, Steve, and Justin, do an LGTM on the issue, then we can start merging the PR.
Yep, I will work on that tomorrow morning, and I'll post in Slack when that is updated.
Okay.
And
What's
before that,
the
may
Sorry.
I ask everybody on the call to comment on issue 35, whether they are okay with this approach?
So I have a comment on issue number 35. I just thought of it as I request Niaz or Milind or anybody to review it. Instead of bullet points, can we give a number to it? So in case they have a disagreement with one of those bullet points, they can just say, hey, this number we disagree with, everything else we're good. Just a small read.
Sure, yeah. I can actually go and update that right now, if you want.
Yeah, that will help. If they disagree
Yeah.
with any one part, they can say, yeah.
Let
think
me do that.
Yeah, Sajay, I think we can get this done relatively sooner to get an LGTM from Niaz and Milind after today. But we
sounds
need
good.
Steve and Justin's approval as well. So
Yeah, and that was my next question. Like, how long do we wait for action? Like, if this is not going to make progress, I think we want to probably put some timeline or some rough estimate that this needs to be done, and give enough time for. My concern is that what is the process if there is no approval?
yeah, I don't expect that to happen. Like if you can reach out to Steve or Justin, I can reach out to Milind and Niaz, answer any queries that they might have that we have answered on these calls.
Okay, sounds good. I think Tori is the only one who has access to Steve and Justin at this point. So
Okay.
I will do my best to get them actually to respond to that.
If we are,
yeah.
sorry,
Please.
I was just gonna answer the question from if we don't have an LGTM on all of these by Thursday morning, then we will look for a plan B. But I think Thursday morning will be my next date to get the LGTM on issue number 35.
Freeman, could you help to add the notes? I think the first thing is supermajority on issue number 35. Then the next is the supermajority on PR 32 after Toddy updated it. The next is that we need to take actions to create several PRs in each repository to update the README file and also In that README file, we will point into the GitHub README for the Notary project overview and specify what's the purpose of each repository. So these are the 3 steps to fixing the naming issue. We also need to check the current process and amend the process if needed on how to archive sub-repository. And once the process is clear and we agree on that, then we can create a new issue, vote for the new repository specification, and we move the documents from the Notary project to that repository and make it well organized. Then we will cut release upon that specification repository. And for the Notary project archiving, we can do it in parallel, and that one we are not blocking the V1 release. So this is the process I learned based on our discussion. It's better that Viman, you can write it down so that we can agree on that.
Yeah, as you can see, we have 3 meeting notes added in this doc, and I see Toddy also created issue in each repo. I can link those issues related to updating the README. Is anything else missing in this note?
Toddy, you have your hands up, please.
No, it's not related to that. I can wait.
Okay.
I
think
mean,
maybe
it's related, but not to the notes.
Okay. Viman, maybe you can add that. We will create, for V1 release, we needed to have new repository specification ready. But for archive Notary project, it could be later. It will not block in the V1 release, but we need to have a new repository, including the specification for V1 and cut release for that repository. Maybe Toddy, you can continue.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I updated the issue with the numbered lists, as Samir suggested. That was the one thing. And the other is, once again, so for folks who are on the call or who kind of have any opinion about or do not agree with the process, please either speak on the call or comment on the issue. I just wanted to maybe run a kind of roll call whether there are any severe objections to follow this process, or whether in general everybody agrees, at least on the call, that we should pursue that process. Does the silence means acknowledgement, or maybe thumbs up or something like this will be more helpful? Is everybody okay? Or sorry?
I'll comment on the issue, Toddy.
Okay, yeah, comment on the issue. Let's say, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think for people who is now on the call, could you share your opinions on it? If it is look good to me, I think later you can update it. But if not, you have some comments. We have time now to discuss it.
I just want to say that, like, this is as much as I can go. Everything else is up to the community to, like, and once again, like, the CNCF and specifically Emily expects that it's not only my voice that actually is heard there, right? Because she said, yeah, I like what you're doing, but you need to get agreement from the community. That's where I'm going. And like, this is what I think, but that doesn't mean it's kind of the only right way. People who are participating in the community. You are like the ones that you should express your opinion, commenting on the issue, commenting in the meeting. This is what I am appealing for.
Sorry, am I audible? Hello.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Miran, we can hear you.
So far from your explanation and everything looks good, sounds good. I'll go through the issue in detail and leave a comment when I can.
Yeah, and Miran, when you go through the issue, just think whether those things make it clearer for you what
Yeah.
the project is or not. And if something is not clear, please like say, I don't
Yes.
understand why do we need to use that thing. Thank you.
Yes.
Really appreciate
I'll definitely do that.
really appreciate that.
yeah. Thanks, Mir. Yeah, any comments from other people on this one?
I think we beat this to death, like in this meeting. So, okay.
So quick question, do you want to merge 32 first and then 35? Is that the, because Emily is calling out like comments given in 32 already, right, for 35?
Yeah, no, I think we discussed to have update to 32 with information from 35 if
Okay.
everybody is okay. Yeah.
So then can we be explicit and say we prioritize 32 first and then we'll do 35 if we need it?
You mean the other way around, 35 first, and after that we need to do 32.
Okay, that's exactly what I'm confused. So you want to prioritize 35?
Yeah, I want to prioritize 35 because 35 has the kind of the terminology about notary project, notary V2, what they mean, and so on. So
Okay.
this terminology needs to go into 32 before we actually get that merged.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I think please take a look at this issue and provide your comments as soon as you can. If no further questions on this one, we will move to the next item. Sorry, Toti, you want to say something?
No, I wanted to add one additional item as a discussion, but after we finish with this one.
Okay. Yeah. Then we take a look at the current document status. Yeah, this one. We made some progress, but still we have some documentations needed to review again. We have two security related documents. So for these two, I don't know, Toti, whether you have a time, but you can do it later after you finish the other issue we just discussed. Since these two PRs, you requested some changes. So maybe you can take a look once you have time.
Yeah, I apologize for that. I remember we discussed those with Samir on Thursday, and we wanted to have those done by end of day Friday. I'll put them on my priority list. So,
yeah, thanks, Todi. No worry. So first about the release management, I think yeah, for this one, I think we are good to go. We have 3 approvals on the release management. For the naming issue we just discussed, we will clean up those PRs later. And for the signature specification, this one, we have this PR is also related to naming. And I own this PR, so I will update it accordingly later based on the GitHub PRs. These are the security related documents we just discussed, and the threat modeling, I did another update yesterday. So please, maintainers, take a look. And for the README file, I will update this one later according to the GitHub PRs. It's also related to the naming and the terminology. For the release guideline, let me check the status. Okay, we have one maintainer approve this one. So please, maybe Pritesh, Samuel, from your side, you can take a look at this release checklist.
Yeah, for this PR, I think I am waiting for Pritesh, who commented and reviewed that PR. So I will need Pritesh to re-review that PR and give the conclusion for that PR. For updating the checklist.
I actually have a question. I think we discussed that we'll keep this PR open until the end, so we
Okay, yeah.
include everything and we will merge it just before the release. Pritesh, correct me if I am wrong, but I remember that we discussed.
That's correct. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So this one should stay open until right before the release, and merge it before that, so we ensure that all the steps are followed and added to the release management.
Okay, I think there will be two PRs. One is related to release management. Another is related to the checklist. So I think those two PRs will be left open for a while we're doing the release. Okay, got it. Okay, that's the current status for the documentation. One more thing, that Adam from the security team is asking that they are ready to release the security report. So because we are also updating our terminologies, so maybe we need to take a second look at the repository, at the security report, and also considering what's the best time to release it. Adam mentioned sometime next week. So please, maintainers, we can discuss in that Slack channel to agree on the time and also review the security report again, especially on the naming for the Notary project. Okay, that's the next another action we needed to take. I saw comments from Sajay that yeah, to show the direction to the project needs to go. So currently we have maintainers on the call. I think the people on the call are the active maintainers. So if any comments you want to discuss or address, we can do it now. Toddy, please.
Yeah, it's not related to the comments about that. I wanted to add actually one question to the agenda item, and it's just an idea. Do people feel comfortable releasing notation only next week? Because I believe we are ready to release notation. We can publish the security audit report. The only thing that actually maybe gets delayed are the specifications. But having in mind that the specifications are mainly kind of naming changes, do people think that we should actually release notation next week? or should we hold on notation release? Just a idea. I don't know how I feel about that either. Just it came to me 5 minutes ago.
I mean, having a project 1.0 when the specifications are not 1.0 sounds a little bit weird, but yeah. I mean, if there's not much delay in renaming, probably if just a week of delay, probably we should do it same time.
Samir?
Same thing as Pritesh, like we
And Sajay?
even gonna change. This doesn't seem right.
Oh, sorry. You were not finished. Sorry, Samir.
No, that was it. I think we want to have the specs available when we do the notation 1.0, so we can point back that saying this notation 1.0.0 meets these specifications.
Sajay? You're muted.
Please, thanks. If we can get the spec out soon, maybe in a week, then there's no concern. But we've had quietly supported OCI and things like that in draft specification form before. So there's precedent. SCTP 2.0 was in draft for a long time before many GA tools have released. So there's definitely a lot of tools that do decide to GA, but they say that this is general availability of the tool, but with aligning to a specific version or a specific draft of the specification is a fair way to kind of like release code. The fact that this is an open source project and its support varies depending on which cloud you go and how people want to kind of like pitch the support. So that's a different question. I think notation as a tool, I don't see there's any problem if we release it without the specification being GA'd, but it would be good if we can align them.
And just maybe a little bit, thank you actually for all the feedback, and maybe a little bit for food for thought for kind of how we develop that further. Do we expect always to have such simultaneous releases of specs and tooling, or do we expect actually to have independent releases going forward? That's maybe one thing that we need to think about. Because like one of the things that came to my attention is that we do not, for example, ref the libraries the same way we ref the, let's say, the CLI. And kind of, for me, all these sub projects that we have under the organization, they can evolve independently. And we don't need to make these simultaneous releases. So let's think about that.
I agree there, but it's like most probably we will refer that this version of notation follows this version of spec or something like that. That this abide by this version of spec, and probably spec can be like 1.2, notation can only support 1.0. But since it's the first stable release 1.0, that makes it tricky.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just yeah, we need to make it clear and think for the future. Okay.
Thanks, Tony. I think this reminds me something that, because we do have some, I switch back to the boards, we do have some PR address the specification and also requirements document. So if we want to create a new specification repository and including the specifications and the requirements, we need to merge those PR first.
Yeah, that was discussed last Thursday, and I think I added it to the issue that we need to merge everything before that. Let me know if I missed that part in the issue. But yes, all the PRs under Notary project repository needs to be merged before we move to the new repository.
Yeah, and we have some very old PRs, so we need to close it. I think you see we have a PRs 2 years ago, basically.
Yeah, so actually about those, do we need to merge them or do we abandon those? That's, I don't know. I'm looking for feedback, mainly Ritesh, and what do you guys think? Like,
I mean, we can take a quick pass over it and see what are important, and probably I'm assuming that most of them are not important, which we can discard, but let's take a pass over them.
Okay.
I think there are some PRs which are open for more than 2 years, so probably I am thinking we can close them directly. If they haven't got an update in last 6 months, probably they won't get any update in near future.
yeah, maybe we should do a better job of actually keeping those clean and triaging those on a regular basis.
I agree.
Okay. Yeah, but in parallel, we can create an issue waterfall archive in Notary project repository and create a new specification repository. And we also need to merge the PRs first. Then we can, if the vote issues are agreed by the maintainers, then we can start copy these documents to the specification repository. So that also means that please maintainers take an active review on those PRs. I think some PRs are already reviewed several times, so we are close to merge them. So please take a look as soon as you can. Yeah, Freeman, please.
Yeah, I want to reply to Toddy's question. So can we set a target date for releasing notation V1, as Toddy is asking if we can working on releasing notation V1 and fix those governance issues in parallel, as we have been delaying notation V1 for a long time. And I can foresee that we will need a lot of runs review on those governance documents updates. And I think the current status is that we have very limited number of reviewers, or we say active maintainers. So I'm thinking if we can if we can set a target date next week, and we plan to fix all of those high priority governance issues and update those documents by that date. And but if there is anything remaining and are not completed by that date, I think we still need to plan for cutting the notation V1 release.
Yeah, Samuel, please.
Yeah, Feynman, I'm just curious, like, what's the reason to get the notation 1.0 out if we don't have all the governance done? Like, is there a conference coming up where we, like, I'm just trying to understand the pressure to get notation 1.0 out. Is it because the security review is going to come out? So before that comes out, 1.0 has to come out. I'm just trying to understand the variables, why we should prioritize notation 1.0 without the governance being ready.
Yeah, I'm thinking from the end user point of view, governance issues are for our maintainers to fixing it, and they are not blocking issues for end users who want to try it in production. So I see there are a lot of end users who are waiting for the stable V1 release. So I'm thinking we do not delay the notation V1 release for a long time, and working on fixing those high priority governance issues in parallel. I'm not sure we are deprioritize those governance issues. I mean, we can work on those two things in parallel and have a targeted for releasing V1.
Okay, so I don't have explicit feedback that people are unable to use notation RC7 because it's not stable with V1.0 attached to it. If you have that feedback, that's great. I didn't have that, so thank you for answering that question.
So Samir, just to actually, what Feynman said is exactly what my thoughts are and what I communicated with like either other communities or in general, they do not care of our kind of branding stuff. They are asking us, okay, when do you guys gonna release so we can officially say that we are also using this particular tool. Like it's not only like let's say customers of Azure. I've heard that also from other CNCF communities or tools that are actually betting on using notation and notation libraries going forward.
Yeah, I think it will help if we have the visibility to drive this faster. Like I was not tracking that, so thank you for pointing it out. If you have those explicit community names or
I can give you a couple of names. So first is actually AWS already announced, and as far as I remember, it was using notation there. Hiberno is another team that actually announced support for Notary project signatures. Trivi is another one, and I am getting ping from time to time, and everybody like asks when it will be released. So I had a meeting with Hiberno 2 weeks ago when they did the announcement. And after actually the Hiberno and you guys announced the support on AWS again, Jim asked me what is the date so they can say officially that, for example, notation is released. This is where my information comes from. I don't know whether Feynman and Yi, they have any more customers they can or communities they can share.
Yeah, there's an example regarding a community regarding a CNCF project integration. So Harbor Container Registry is another CNCF project who is waiting for Notation V1 release as they deprecated the previous Notary project from their Harbor core functionalities, and they hope we can integrate Notation V1 with Harbor Container Registry and provide signing capabilities in Harbor Container Registry. So I think this is another example.
Okay, thanks. I have no more questions.
Yeah, we are already over time. I think the naming issue, we definitely need to fix that, and we agree that we need to respond to the GitHub issue that Toddy created and also the PR. So I think let's continue to comment on the PR and the issue and get those two approved and merged as soon as we can, because we also need to reference those terminology in the document and also by our partners or other communities. So I think the terminology, we need to definitely fix them first. Okay, I think we take actions. I think the most urgent now is that all the active maintenance response to Toddy's issues and the PRs. then we get those two merged as soon as I can, so that we can have a aligned terminology that we can use later for our release. And I think maybe we needed to take a look at this, I think Thursday, Pacific time, to review the status. And we keep active communication during these days. Okay, Samuel, anyone?
Yeah, I'm already working with the maintainers to have them look at that and give an LG team as soon as possible.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, please comment to the issue. It's the most urgent. Issue 35 and the PR 32. Okay. If no other business we want to discuss, we can close today's meeting.
Thank you, Yi. Thanks.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. See you
Good
guys.
folks.